From the Mission Director Center at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, this is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 75 minutes and counting. Operations here at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station are going well this morning for the launch of the GOES-M spacecraft aboard a Lockheed Martin Atlas IIA launch vehicle. Liftoff is scheduled to occur on time at 3:02 a.m. Eastern Time today from Complex 36A at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Launch window extends today for 1 hour and 23 minutes. The spacecraft that will be placed in orbit today is GOES-M, and it is the last in a current series of advanced geostationary weather satellites currently in service. Once in orbit, it will become the GOES-12, joining GOES-8, 9, 10, and 11 already in space. GOES-M has a new instrument, not on the other spacecraft, a solar X-ray imager that can be used in forecasting space weather. The effects of solar storms that create electromagnetic disturbances on Earth that affect other satellites. For its other systems, GOES-M will provide a redundant capability for the geostationary weather satellite network and be ready to be activated when one of the currently operational spacecraft must be retired. Everything continues to go on time this morning at the launch pad. Fueling of the Centaur stage with liquid oxygen began about 15 minutes ago and is continuing on schedule. The Atlas stage liquid oxygen fueling is set to pick up in about 5 minutes, and liquid oxygen tanking operations will then begin about 15 minutes after that. Again, the countdown continues to progress smoothly without any technical concerns for the Lockheed Martin Atlas IIA vehicle. And payload managers are monitoring the GOES-M spacecraft, which is sitting atop the Atlas rocket, and no issues are being reported with the spacecraft. The tower at pad 36A was rolled back from the vehicle earlier this morning, and we began the terminal phase of the countdown at the T-minus 485 minute mark at about 6 p.m. last night. Weather forecasters are currently indicating some concerns throughout the window, which again extends for 1 hour and 23 minutes, beginning at 3:02 a.m. Eastern Time. The local atmosphere remains relatively unstable as coastal showers are beginning to form along the Brevard County coast in east central Florida. These showers will form and dissipate throughout the launch countdown this morning and will possibly produce some moderate to heavy rainfall amounts as they slowly drift north. There's also the possibility that some of these showers can intensify to the point of becoming thunderstorms and therefore possibly produce lightning within a 5 nautical mile radius of Launch Complex 36. The main concern this morning will be for the chance of isolated thunderstorms on station during the launch countdown and the proximity to rain showers and enhanced cumulus clouds during the launch window. Despite this, the most recent check of the observed conditions reported that all the conditions at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station are observed go for weather at this time. Nonetheless, the forecasters are continuing to show that we expect to have about a 40% chance of violation throughout the duration of the window. At this time, we are going to play a short tape of some of the spacecraft's preparations prior to launch. The spacecraft arrived at the shuttle landing facility on a C-5 transport back in April, and it was delivered to Astrotech in Titusville, Florida, where it was uncovered, and preparations then began for processing the spacecraft for its final leg before being taken out to the Atlas vehicle and put on top of the vehicle. The spacecraft was rotated and moved into a processing stand. This again occurred just a day or so after it arrived in Central Florida. This spacecraft that goes in will monitor hurricanes and severe thunderstorms, as well as flash floods and other severe weather.
Test 1, 2.
Yeah, one more deployment.
Later the next day, the boom was deployed, and this was done a number of times to ensure that
Test
all
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
components of the spacecraft are operating properly. Again, these are final checks that are done in Central Florida. This occurred back in April. Also, the spacecraft solar panels were deployed. Further indications and checks that to make sure that all moving components aboard the spacecraft are operating properly. The GOES-M spacecraft will gather real-time weather data and combine that with data from Doppler radars and automated surface observing systems that will help weather forecasters provide better warnings of severe weather here on Earth. And finally, the spacecraft was encapsulated. Again, this occurred at Astrotech. This operation occurred back in July, just about 3 weeks ago. And we're back live now with a shot of the Atlas vehicle on Launch Pad 36A at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The countdown is progressing smoothly with no serious technical concerns being addressed at this time. At this point, we would like to play a short tape that demonstrates the activities involved in the buildup of the Atlas rocket. The Atlas stage arrived and was offloaded at the skid strip at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. This occurred back in May, on May the 30th, actually, of this year. The Atlas stage of the rocket burns a combination of liquid oxygen and RP-1, which is a highly refined kerosene. And the Atlas first stage erection occurred on Pad 36A the following day on May the 31st. It's 82 feet long and 10 feet in diameter and has 3 engines made by Rocketdyne.
Atlas LO2 at flight level.
Roger.
Following the erection of the Atlas stage, the Centaur stage was lifted to the top of the Atlas stage. This occurred on the 1st of June of this year. The Centaur stage is 33 feet long, 10 feet in diameter, and it has 2 RL-10 engines made by Pratt & Whitney.
Atlas LO2 temperature at breakaway valve has been on scale for 6 minutes.
Roger.
LCFTS.
Go ahead.
FTS self-test is complete.
Roger. Charge pogo suppressor for flight.
Roger.
And finally, the spacecraft arrived at the pad and the nose fairing encapsulated inside the fairing, and that arrival at the pad and erection to mate with the Atlas at pad 36A occurred in July of this year. And we are back live now with a view of the Atlas Centaur rocket on Complex 36A.
Ready to report to resume countdown. Atlas systems propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Vehicle electrical.
Go.
Flight termination system.
Go.
Propellant utilization.
Go.
Centaur systems propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Vehicle electrical.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
CCLS monitor. Go. Flight termination system. Go. Telemetry.
Go.
RF.
Go.
Complex systems instrumentation. Go. Launch control. Go. Environmental control.
Go.
Booms. Go. Launcher. Go. Water.
Go.
Complex electrical.
Go.
Sequencer. Go. Ground wind monitor vehicle loads.
Go.
TV control. Go. Operation safety manager.
Go.
Range weather and final clear to launch.
Go.
Launch director. Go.
And that final word from the launch director that we are ready to pick up the count in about 2 minutes. All launch commit criteria, weather-wise, still reports green conditions, no issues with the weather. And we'll be picking up the count in 1 minute.
Stand by to pick up the count in 1 minute.
Spacecraft to internal power.
Roger.
And the spacecraft is being taken to internal power. And the spacecraft is on internal power.
LC-1, this SCC, the spacecraft is on internal power.
Roger.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting. Mark.
Gas generator purge on.
Purge on.
Equipment module vent door squib to arm.
Squib armed.
Tank isolation pyro valve switch to arm.
Valves armed.
Prepare water system.
Roger. T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Prepare Centaur pneumatics.
Roger.
FTS to internal.
And the final poll from
FTS
NASA
on internal.
and NOAA are that both the vehicle and the spacecraft are a go for launch. T-minus 4 minutes and
T-minus
counting.
4 minutes.
Atlas vehicle power to internal.
Atlas on internal.
Boom power switch to arm.
Switch armed.
Launcher power vent PYC power on.
Power on.
Launcher power vent fire commands to enable.
Fire commands enabled.
Everything continues to look good.
T-minus 3 minutes. Water system ready.
Roger.
Centaur pneumatics ready.
Roger.
Launch operations are going well. Weather continues to report that they are green, and we are good for launch.
T-minus 2 minutes, 35 seconds. Steering Atlas LO2 topping.
Roger. Arm switch to arm.
Engine prep complete. T-minus 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
Start flight pressurization.
Roger, going to flight pressures.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Centaur has gone to internal power.
Centaur on internal. Flight termination system to arm.
Atlas to arm. Centaur to arm. FTS armed.
Minus 1 minute, 40 seconds. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Securing LH2 tanking.
Roger. Ignition enable switch closed.
Switch closed.
Minus 1 minute, 15 seconds.
Securing Centaur LO2 topping. Roger.
Stable at flight pressure.
Roger. MIB to auto arm.
Auto arm.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Minus 45.
Status check propellants.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Go Centaur.
Pneumatics.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Launch sequence start.
T-minus
Mark.
30 seconds.
Minus 30.
MIB armed.
Vent valves closed. Minus 25.
T-minus 15 seconds. Minus 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have main engine ignition, and we have liftoff of the GOES-M spacecraft aboard an Atlas II vehicle, providing additional capability to forecast weather on Earth.
Atlas hydraulic systems are up and running at full pressure. Everything's looking good thus far. Pitch program is in right on time. And Atlas PU is in closed loop control. Booster and sustainer operating parameters look good. Ignition signature looks right in family. Steady state levels are good. Signatures are nice and smooth. And all operating parameters continue to look good at this time. And the vehicle continues right down the middle of the range track. We are beginning to approach max Q. Engine Engine operating parameters continue to look good. And everything continues to operate normally. Atlas PU system operating on the lock switch stop. Engine operating parameters look good. The vehicle is the max U transonics portion of the flight, and everything continues to look good. And booster flight control continues to look good, very mild signature. Operating levels look good. Vehicle continues right down the range track. We are now 100 seconds into the mission at an altitude of 10 nautical miles, 6 nautical miles downrange at 1,600 miles per hour. Coming up on 20 seconds until we blow the pyro valve to activate the reaction control and ARCM systems. Both Atlas engines continue to operate normally. Atlas PU is now controlling your nominal mixture ratio. And we fired the pyro valve, activating the reaction control and ARCM systems. Everything looks good. Booster sustainer engines continue to operate normally. Flight control looks good. Vehicle continues right down the middle of the range track. And we've fired the ARCM thrusters for thermal conditioning. We've gone open loop on Atlas PU in preparation for BECO. We have booster engine cutoff, normal signature there, and booster section separation. We have gone back to closed loop control on Atlas PU. Sustainer continues to burn normally. And sustainer continues to operate normally. PU is operating near nominal mixture ratio. Everything looks good. Mark event we're looking for is fairing jettison. That should occur in 20 seconds. And sustainer parameters continue to look good. Sustainer flight control looks nominal. Coming up on fairing jettison. And we've jettisoned the payload fairing. Both brake wires indicate a successful jettison of the payload fairing. Dynamic signatures look good for that event, and we've re-enabled steering post-fairing set, and the sustainer continues to operate normally. It's on the range track. We're 40 seconds from SECO at 69 nautical miles in altitude, 170 nautical miles downrange at 7,200 miles per hour. Sustainer parameters continue to look just right down the middle. 20 seconds to SECO. Flight control continues to be right down the middle. Seconds to SECO. Shutdown signature looks good. We have stage separation. We have pre-start on fuel, pre-start on locks. Center housing temperatures are coming down right as expected. We've switched telemetry formats. We have ignition and full thrust. We have two Centaur engines up and running normally. Everything looks good in the search signature. Centaur hydraulics are up and running normally. And we've started the purge firing on the reaction control system. We've gone to fixed angles on Centaur PU. Engine responding to the change in mixture ratio as expected. Everything looks just fine so far for this mission. The vehicle is now 91 nautical miles in altitude, 337 nautical miles downrange at 8,800 miles per hour. Flight control continues to look good. Vehicle continues right down the center of the range track. Everything appears perfectly normal for this first flight of Phase 3 turbopumps on the RL-10 main engines of Centaur. operating parameters continue to look good. And we've just had a thermal conditioning firing in the reaction control system. Signatures look good for that. Closed loop control on the Centaur PU system. Moving towards the nominal mixture ratio right off the bat. Everything looks good. Both main engines continue to burn normally. Both hydraulic power packs show good steady state levels. We continue right down the center of the range track, 97 nautical miles in altitude, 525 nautical miles downrange at 10,700 miles per hour. Flight control continues to look right down the middle, as does our range track. Telemetry data is nice and clean. Centaur engine parameters are looking good. And another thermal conditioning firing in the reaction control system. And telemetry data looks good. And Centaur PU continues to control nominally, pretty close to a nominal mixture ratio. All engine data continues to look good. Vehicle continues right down the center of the range track. And we have switched over to Antigua telemetry. Everything looks good there. We're now 70 seconds to MECO 1. Everything continues to look just fine for this mission. Both engines are operating normally. Reaction control system firings are on schedule with expected signatures. Hydraulics are up and running normally. And the vehicle continues right down the center of the range track. We're now 871 nautical miles downrange at 14,500 miles per hour. You operate very near nominal. Everything looks good there. "20 seconds to MECO. We have MECO 1, normal shutdown signature on both engines. Pumps are spinning down. We have 4S engines on. Signatures look normal. And hydraulic power packs are rolled off to zero. Signature looks good there. We have disabled the FTS system right on time. And taking a quick look at our parking orbit. We had a nominal apogee height of 272.97 nautical miles. We hit 272.62. Perigee height of 88.59. We hit that within 2 decimal points, and our inclination is good up to 2 decimals as well. Everything looks good so far on this mission. Taking a quick look at mark event times, everything looks pretty good throughout this mission. Showing approximately 5 seconds later to a nominal timeline, but that's well within our historical experience. Continue to receive good telemetry data from Antigua. We have 4S engines on. Should be switching to 2S thrusters. 10 seconds. We're on 2S thrusters, right on time. Taking a quick look at calculated Atlas stage performance, we're showing approximately minus 28 pounds to nominal, which is well within 1 sigma of our performance dispersion for the booster. And we should continue to be able to monitor vehicle conditions for another 80 to 90 seconds as Antigua continues to have coverage. A quick look at critical parameters shows the vehicle operating right as expected. Propellant tank pressures are nominal. Helium storage bottle pressure is right where we expect it to be.
This is Atlas Launch Control, and everything continues to look good with our post-launch activities, on-orbit activities. Everything has occurred right on time. We're well within our experience level, and there are no problems with any aspects of the mission. At this point, we will go into replays of the launch from various cameras around the pad while continuing to listen to real-time telemetry calls.
And as we approach our predicted loss of signal from Antigua, we continue to receive good data, which is expected. We often get good, clean telemetry data well past our predicted LOSs. After we have loss from Antigua, we'll be in a continuing in our park orbit coast until we pick up data from Ascension Island. And we are starting to see some degradation in the quality of the telemetry as the vehicle goes over the horizon as expected. We have LOS from Antigua. Expect to pick up data from Ascension Island approximately 1,200 seconds into the mission, which is 150 seconds from now. signature looks good. We're about 5 seconds behind our nominal schedule. We have 4S thrusters on, right on time. And we start pressurization of the propellant tanks in preparation for second burn. 10 seconds to our next event, taking the PU valves to their start position. And we have fuel pre-start. Box pre-start. Housing temps have responded to the flow of propellant through the engines. We have ignition and full thrust. We have 2 engines up and running normally. And steady state levels look good. Everything is operating normally. This is expected to be a 90-second burn. And we have hydraulics up and running normally as well. Flight control looks good. And we're continuing our thermal conditioning firings on the RCS thruster loop, good steady state levels. "40 seconds to MECO 2. Both engines burning normally. "20 seconds to MECO 2. Engines operating normally, coming up on main engine cutoff number 2. We have MECO 2 right on time. Shutdown signature looks good. Pumps are spinning down. 4S engines are on. Hydraulic power packs have spun down. Signature looks good. And we are reorienting the vehicle to our separation attitude. Rates look right as expected for that event. And data quality is excellent. And we're right in a 2S settling mode as expected for this time. And we show a nominal second burn length. And we should start spinning up Centaur spacecraft in about 30 seconds. And rates have nulled out, indicating we've completed our turn to separation attitude. And we've begun to spin up for spacecraft separation. And we continue to see a normal spin up in yaw. Data quality looks good. Spacecraft separation, both brake wires indicate a successful separation of the spacecraft. And a quick look at orbital parameters. And taking a look at orbital parameters for the spacecraft separation orbit, we had a nominal apogee height of 22,833 nautical miles. We hit 22,827. Our perigee height was to be 148.6. We hit 148.5, and our inclination is good down past 4 decimal points. The successful separation of the GOES payload in a very good orbit. This concludes the commentary for the flight of AC-142 with the GOES-M spacecraft.
This is Atlas Launch Control as we continue to monitor the activities on orbit. We're expecting to have Chuck Duvall come over here momentarily, and we will get a few words from him before we actually sign off. This is Atlas Launch Control, and we have with us right now Chuck Duvall, who is the NASA Launch Director from Kennedy Space Center. Thanks for joining us, Chuck.
Sure, Bruce.
We had a short delay tonight from our original targeted launch time, but everything else went well. What happened? What caused the delay?
Well, initially we had a radar site in Antigua go down, and it put the range in a red condition. By the time that came up to be operational, a ship had gone into the surveillance control point, so we had to hold until that ship was cleared, and we resynced a new T0 and hit the mark at 23 after.
Good. And everything from that point went very well. We didn't have any problems with the vehicle on orbit, and all the sequences went well.
So it seems to have gone right down the line. The spacecraft separated right about 27 minutes after launch, and they'll acquire, or they'll release their solar panels about an hour and a half from now. So they're well on their way to support their mission.
Okay. Well, great. Well, good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
And as we heard with our short interview with Chuck Duvall, our NASA Launch Director, everything did go well for the launch of the GOES-M spacecraft and the Atlas IIA launch vehicle. The launch of the Atlas vehicle was successful, and the data coming into the telemetry lab continues to indicate that there are no problems with the spacecraft following its ascent through the spacecraft separation operations. The next scheduled event to occur is spacecraft acquisition, and that is due to occur in the next 10 minutes or so. And then about an hour from now, the antenna are scheduled to be unfurled, and confirmation of these events will be made through a written press release and can be found online at www.ksc.nasa.gov. Now, this concludes commentary for the launch of Atlas 142 and the GOES-M spacecraft.